cast out by her own blood. The sky above was dark and full of green clouds. Cold wind blew across the empty land as Jirani walked barefoot, holding her babies close to her chest. Her long silver hair stuck to her wet face. Her thin robe was torn and dirty. Her legs shook with each step, but she kept walking. She had no choice. Behind her, the great city of Yurnax was closing its metal gates. Huge horns had sounded as the guards forced her out. A crowd had gathered to watch. Some shouted insults, some threw stones. No one showed kindness. Jirani had once been respected in her city. She worked as a medical researcher. She was calm, smart, and loyal to her people. But everything changed when they found out she had mated with a human and was pregnant with his children. Hybrids were not allowed. It was against the old laws. Her people believed that mixing blood made the future weak. When her children were born, with soft human skin and bright alien eyes, the elders declared them abominations. Jirani had begged. She had cried in front of the council. She had even offered to leave quietly. But they wanted a public punishment. Her partner, the human man she loved, was already dead. Now she and her newborns were thrown out like trash. The babies in her arms were quiet now. Too quiet. She stopped beside a cracked rock and sat down. Her arms ached. Her chest was empty. No milk left. She looked at her children, their faces thin and pale. "I won't let you die," she whispered. She knew the wild lands were full of dangers, poison air, strange beasts, no food, no shelter. But the city was behind her, and death waited there too. Suddenly, a sound came from the ridge above her. A small patrol drone buzzed in the air. Jirani flinched and pulled her children close. The drone scanned her, beeped, and flew off. It was recording her pain for others to see. Her disgrace was entertainment now. She felt something break inside. Hours passed. She kept walking. Her legs were numb, her lips dry, her mind dizzy. Then, in the distance, she saw something. Metal shapes half buried in the ground. An old mining station. It was long abandoned, or so she thought. No one had lived there for years, but right now it was her only chance. She reached the door and knocked weakly. Nothing. She knocked again. No answer. Her knees gave out, and she slid to the ground. She curled her body around her babies to keep them warm. Her vision blurred. Inside the station, cameras watched her. Someone sat behind a desk, frowning at the screen. A human. His name was Noah. He had taken over the mining station after it was shut down, fixing it up piece by piece. It wasn't much, but it was quiet. Peaceful. He had seen many things in the galaxy, but he had never seen a woman like her, clearly alien, yet her children looked part human. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know what trouble followed her. But something about the way she held those babies made him pause. He stood up and went to the main door. With a deep breath, he pressed the unlock button. Outside, Jirani barely heard the door slide open. A wave of warm air touched her face. Light spilled out. She opened her eyes. A tall figure stood in the doorway. A human male. His expression was not angry, not scared, just surprised. Jirani tried to speak, but only a whisper came out. "Help. Them." Then everything went black. Noah caught her before she hit the ground. He looked at the children, weak and cold in her arms. He could feel their tiny hearts beating fast. "This is going to be a long night," he muttered. Jirani woke up in warmth. Soft lights glowed above her. She was lying on a bed, not the cold ground. A smooth silver blanket covered her. Her eyes moved slowly, blinking at the strange ceiling. It wasn't the sky. It wasn't her city. For a moment she panicked. "My children..." She sat up quickly, but before fear could take over, a calm voice spoke. "They're safe. Over here. She turned her head. A man, the human, was sitting on a chair nearby. He had a gentle look on his face and a thick blanket over his lap. In his hands he held a cup of steaming tea. His clothes were plain but clean, his beard rough but trimmed. His eyes didn't judge. They watched her like she was a puzzle, dangerous but worth solving. Her babies were beside her, wrapped in new cloth, resting peacefully inside a makeshift cradle. She touched them to be sure they were real. They were warm, breathing. Where am I? She asked, voice rough like sand. My outpost, the man said. You were half dead outside my door. Jirani stared at him. Why did you open it? He raised an eyebrow. Because you knocked. That made no sense to her. Her kind never helped strangers. Her kind closed doors and locked them tight. She looked around. The room was small but alive. Plants grew in corner jars. Machines hummed gently. It smelled like metal and soup. The man stood and walked to the small kitchen corner. I'm Noah, he said, pouring some liquid into a bowl. You hungry? Jirani hesitated. Then her body answered for her, a loud growl from her stomach. He chuckled and brought her the bowl. It was strange soup. Orange, thick, but warm. She took a small sip, then another. Her hands shook, but she didn't stop. Noah sat back down. You got a name? She stared at him over the bowl. Jirani. He nodded. Nice to meet you, Jirani. No one had said her name kindly in a long time. After a few minutes, Jirani set the empty bowl down. Why, are you alone here? She asked. Noah shrugged. Same reason anyone ends up alone. Bad choices, bad people, need for peace. She didn't push. He hadn't asked about her children's father, or their strange blood, or why she had been left in the wild. That confused. Her most humans she'd read about were loud, greedy, dangerous, but this one was quiet, kind, maybe broken like her. Still, she didn't trust him fully. Not yet. Jirani watched him work around the room. He was fixing a broken panel, talking to himself in soft words. He handled wires and tools with practiced hands. Her eyes caught a faded photo pinned on the wall, a young human woman and a child. His family? She turned away. Your people might come looking, Noah said suddenly. Should I be worried? Jirani lowered her eyes. They already cast me out. But they may come to finish what they started. He didn't ask what that meant, just nodded. Well, I've got shields and traps, he said calmly. Let them try. She stared. Why would you protect us? You don't even know me. Noah didn't look at her. I don't need to know you. I saw a mother dying in the cold with her kids. That's enough. Jirani felt something she hadn't in years, a flicker of safety, but it scared her too, because safety always came before betrayal. Still, her babies were warm now. She had food in her belly. Her head was no longer spinning. Her body had stopped shaking. For one night, maybe. Just maybe. She could rest. She lay back on the bed, her hand resting on her children. Noah watched her for a moment, then stood to leave. As he reached the door, she whispered, Thank you. Noah. He paused, then nodded once. Sleep. We'll figure things out tomorrow. The door slid shut behind him. Jirani stared at the ceiling. Hope was a dangerous thing, but in this place, in this strange human's care, maybe hope was also possible. Jirani woke up before the lights came on. It was quiet, too quiet. Her sharp alien ears scanned for danger. She didn't hear boots, no angry shouts, no sirens, just the soft breathing of her children beside her and the steady hum of the outposts, life systems. She sat up slowly, still not used to the warm bed or clean air. One of the twins stirred, making a tiny noise, and she placed her hand over his chest. Calm, safe. But in her heart, A storm was brewing. Back in her city. Every kind word came with a price. Every soft smile hid a knife behind it. Kindness had always been the start of betrayal. So what did this human want? She stood quietly, wrapping her thin robe around her. The scent of warm food drifted through the air again. Her stomach growled, but she ignored it. Quietly, she stepped into the hallway. She followed the smell until she found him. Noah, the human. He was bent over a strange machine, welding something. Sparks flew as he worked, music playing softly from a speaker nearby. He hadn't noticed her yet. She looked at him closely now. His clothes were worn. His boots had holes, but his hands were steady. His eyes were tired but sharp. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't rich. He was just there, and that scared her more than any enemy. He looked up suddenly. "Hey." "Morning," he said with a slight smile. "Sleep okay?" She didn't answer. He stood up and walked to the counter. "I made breakfast. It's just rehydrated noodles, but they're warm." He placed a bowl on the table. Jirani didn't move. After a few seconds, she whispered, "What do you want in return?" Noah blinked. "Return?" She stepped forward, eyes narrowing. "You gave us food. You gave us a bed. You haven't asked questions. That means you will ask for something soon, so tell me now. What do you want?" Noah leaned back against the counter, arms folded. "I want..." He paused, then shrugged. "You to eat. That's it." Jirani stared at him like he was speaking another language. "No one gives something for nothing," he sighed. "You've really been through hell, haven't you?" Silence stretched between them. She looked at the bowl again, then back at him. "Do you want my body?" she asked coldly. Noah looked shocked. "What? No." "Then the children?" Her voice cracked. "They're part human. Valuable, maybe. Do you plan to sell them?" Noah stepped away, hands raised. "What? No. What's wrong with you?" Jirani's fists clenched. Her breath was sharp. Her body trembled, not with weakness but memory. Back in her city, she had been offered fake safety before. A kind commander, a sweet-sounding healer, all monsters in disguise. Noah stood quietly, watching her break down. Then he spoke, softly. "I don't want your body. I don't want your kids. I'm not saving you to gain anything." He walked to the wall and pulled something from a small shelf, a faded photograph. "This was my sister. She had a baby. During a pirate raid, she died protecting that child. The kid survived because someone opened their door and let him in." He showed her the photo, his sister smiling, her arms around a small boy. "That someone wasn't me. I was too far. But I made a promise. If I ever saw someone like her again, I'd open the door too." Jirani didn't speak. The photo shook in his hand. His voice dropped lower. "I don't expect you to trust me, but I'm not your enemy." For the first time, Jirani looked at him not as a threat, but as a person. Still broken. Still real. She walked slowly to the table and picked up the bowl. Her hands no longer trembled. She sat down and ate in silence. Noah didn't watch her. He went back to working on the machine, but something had changed. The wall inside her had cracked. Maybe not much, but enough. That night, as she tucked her babies in and lay beside them, she whispered to the dark ceiling, "Maybe not all humans are monsters." Outside, in the blackness of space, a silent ship drifted closer to the outpost, its weapons offline, its purpose unknown. The past was not finished with her, but now she had shelter. She had a name, and maybe, just maybe, she had a future. Silence of the outpost shattered with a sharp beep. Noah looked up from his console. A red icon blinked on the radar. A ship was entering orbit. "That's not right," he muttered. He tapped a few keys. The screen showed a small patrol vessel, no ID, running low power, but too smooth in its movements to be a trader. It hovered for a moment, then started descending toward the surface, straight toward his coordinates. Jirani was in the kitchen feeding the twins mashed fruit Noah had made earlier. She noticed his sudden stillness. "What is it?" she asked, her voice tense. Noah didn't answer at first. Then he looked at her slowly, the calm gone from his face. "Your people found you." Jirani froze. It had been only 5 days. 5 days of fragile peace. Her children had started to smile. She had begun to breathe like she was no longer prey. But peace, for her, never lasted long. Noah rushed to a locker in the hallway and pulled out a compact rifle. It was old, but well-maintained. Jirani's eyes widened. "You have weapons?" "Not many," he said, "but enough to make them think twice." She stood, trembling. "Noah, these aren't common soldiers. They're purifiers. They don't just kill. They erase. They destroy every trace." "Then they picked the wrong station," Noah said, loading a power cell into his rifle. Jirani moved quickly, wrapping her babies in thermal blankets. Her instincts screamed, "Run, hide, disappear." But where would they go? The wastelands outside would kill the children in hours, and the ship overhead was already locking onto their location. Noah tapped into the outpost defense grid, automated turrets, energy nets, and a perimeter jammer that could block low-level scans. He turned toward her. "You trust me yet?" Jirani didn't answer, but she didn't stop him either. 30 minutes later, the ship landed beyond the ridge. It hissed as it opened, releasing 4 armored figures into the sand. They wore white masks with glowing red slits, purifier elites. Each carried a plasma staff deadly even at long range. They walked with slow purpose toward the station, scanning everything. Behind them hovered a black drone capturing every step. Inside the outpost, Noah switched the lights off. Only emergency glow remained. He handed Jirani a tiny earpiece. "Whatever happens," he said softly, "don't open that door unless it's me." "Got it?" She nodded, clutching the twins to her chest. Noah disappeared into the hallway. The purifiers reached the main door and stopped. One of them stepped forward and pressed a button. The outer speaker crackled. "We seek Jirani, Exile of the Yernax. Dominion. Hand her over and no harm will come to the structure. Fail and we will reduce this outpost to ash." Jirani held her breath. Her blood felt like fire in her veins. The silence was long. Then, Noah's voice echoed back from a hidden speaker. "She's not here, you've got the wrong rock." The lead purifier raised his hand. "Scan confirms hybrid life signatures. Do not lie again, human. You are protecting filth." Noah's voice returned, sharper. "Maybe. But she's my filth now." Without warning, the turrets activated. Twin beams of red light lanced through the fog. One purifier fell backward, armor sparking. The others scattered. Inside, Jirani covered her children's ears as explosions rocked the ground. Outside, Noah moved like a shadow, planting traps, rerouting power, using every scrap of metal and tech in his workshop to outwit his enemies. He wasn't stronger. He wasn't faster. But he was human, and humans knew how to survive. One of the purifiers kicked down a side panel, revealing a vent. He slid inside, only to trigger a sonic mine. He collapsed, screaming, his armor cracking. Another tried to break into the security hub. Noah was waiting. One clean shot dropped him cold. The last purifier retreated behind a dune and called in backup. "Target is defended by enhanced human. Possible military background. Recommend orbital strike." Jirani heard it through the earpiece. Her heart dropped. "Noah, they're going to wipe this place from space." Noah, bleeding from his shoulder, leaned over the console. "Not if I talk first." He opened a direct line to the orbiting vessel. "This is Outpost 14K, under human jurisdiction. You fire one shot at me, and you'll start a war you cannot win." Silence. Then a new voice. This one colder, higher ranking. "Human, you are interfering in a Yernax matter." Stand down and hand over the outcast and the half-breeds. Noah's reply was slow. Dangerous. Let me explain something about humans, Commander. He leaned forward. We don't erase children. We raise them. We don't kill mothers for love. We protect them. You call her unclean? That's funny, because she's cleaner than any of you. Another silence. Then, surprisingly, the ship began to pull back. The remaining purifier retreated. The broken were carried, the dead left behind. Shirani watched the sky as the engines roared and the craft rose into the clouds. Noah stumbled back into the living quarters, bruised, bleeding, but alive. Shirani ran to him, dropping to her knees. Her voice shook. You fought them. For me. He collapsed into a chair, breathing hard. Yeah. Well, I don't like being told what to do. She laughed. The sound surprised even her. For the first time in years, she laughed. And as she helped him bandage his wounds, she realized something deeper. Maybe this strange human wasn't just a savior. Maybe he was family. The wreckage still smoked outside the outpost. Black armor pieces lay broken in the sand. Twisted drones sparked in silence. The wind carried the scent of burnt metal and blood. Shirani stood at the door, holding her children. Noah sat nearby on a crate, quietly wrapping his injured arm. His shirt was torn, his face bruised, but he hadn't said a word about it. Neither of them spoke for a long time. They just listened to the quiet. Shirani looked at the desert. They won't stop. Noah nodded. I know. She turned to him, voice trembling. You should have handed me over. You still can. There's time. I won't blame you. He raised an eyebrow. You done? She blinked. Because I don't protect people for favors. I do it because it's right. And I'm not starting now. Shirani didn't know what to say. Her life had taught her survival was everything. That love was rare. That help came with chains. But this human, this stubborn, strange human, was rewriting all the rules. Noah stood and looked at the dead purifier on the sand. They weren't expecting a fight. That's why we're still alive. She nodded slowly. They'll be smarter next time. Later that day, a message arrived. It wasn't from her people. It came from outside the Dominion, from a rogue broadcast channel used by smugglers and fringe species. Somehow the footage from the outpost battle had been leaked across the stars. Shirani watched in silence as the screen showed her, clutching her babies, backing away from masked soldiers. Then the camera shifted to Noah, standing tall, firing, shouting, bleeding. The voiceover said, "One human. One mother. An empire tried to erase them. They fought back." The footage was raw, real, powerful, and now, viral. Across hundreds of worlds, people were watching, talking. Some cheered, some were outraged, others inspired. Noah didn't like it. I didn't do it for attention, he muttered, tossing the communicator onto the table. Shirani stared at him. That doesn't matter anymore. You lit a fire. Now people are watching. He sighed. Let them watch, just as long as they stay away. But they didn't. Within days, more messages came. One was from a hidden colony of exiled mothers from Moi, Shirani's species. They wanted to know if her children were healthy. They wanted to help. Another came from a mixed-race diplomat, half human, half alien, who called Shirani a symbol. She offered sanctuary and political protection, and then came the message that made Noah's jaw tighten. A bounty was now placed on Shirani and her children. 50,000 units, dead or alive. Shirani felt the blood drain from her face. They've made it official, she whispered. Noah nodded, which means they're scared. That night, Noah and Shirani sat in the dark. The twins slept peacefully in a warm crate beside them. Noah was sharpening a tool. Shirani watched him, her voice soft. Do you regret saving me? He didn't. Stop moving. Do you regret being worth it? She smiled faintly. That's a good answer. He set the tool down and leaned back in his chair. I used to think peace meant isolation. Silence, no people, no mess. He looked at her. But then you showed up, with screaming babies, an entire empire behind you, and a face full of pain. She looked away, embarrassed. Noah continued. And, somehow, that chaos felt right. Like maybe peace isn't the absence of trouble. Maybe it's knowing you'll stand up when it comes. Shirani swallowed hard. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Then she stood up and walked to the center of the room. If they want to call me a symbol, fine, but I'm more than that. She turned to face him, her voice stronger now. I'm not just running anymore. I'm ready to fight. With you. He smiled. Good. Because I was running out of traps. Next morning the sky turned silver. 3 dropships appeared on the horizon, silent, sleek, and not from her people. Shirani and Noah stood outside together. He loaded a rifle. She held her children close. But this time the ships didn't fire. They landed, and from them stepped not enemies, but allies. A tall alien woman in old armor, a human man with cybernetic eyes, a young girl with mixed DNA and fire in her voice. Each one had seen the footage. Each one had chosen to come, to protect, to join, to stand. Shirani looked around, at faces, not of her species but of her kind, the real kind, the kind who believe in something bigger than survival. And in that moment, as the sun rose behind the broken hill, she no longer felt like a victim. She was something more, something dangerous to the system that tried to erase her. A spark. Shirani had never seen a camp like this. Inside the old mining outpost, once cold and quiet, now stood a strange army, not of soldiers, but survivors. Refugees, rebels, wanderers, humans, aliens, hybrids, misfits from every corner of the galaxy, and they were all here because of her. Noah watched the crowd from a rusted catwalk above. His hand rested on the railing, his eyes moving slowly, from face to face. We're not ready for this, he whispered to himself. Shirani stood beside him. She wore a new robe, one that she'd repaired herself. It was stitched with different colors, not from her old world, but from the life she was building now. They think I'm a leader, she said quietly, but I'm just a mother who was thrown away. Noah glanced sideways. That's exactly why they follow you. The galaxy had changed in just days. Across media networks, news channels, and black market info hubs, the video of Noah fighting the purifiers had gone viral. Not just once, but over 30 million views, in dozens of languages. It had been shared by exiled captains, resistance cells, underground news feeds, and even humans from Earth's outer colonies. The message was always the same. They called her unclean. He called her worthy. Even neutral systems, ones who usually stayed out of politics, had begun asking questions. Some protested outside the Urnax embassies. Others burned their purity, laws in public rallies. And one brave leader, an old alien who had lost his daughter to the purifiers, openly declared support for the hybrid cause. But while the people supported Shirani, the Dominion prepared for war. Back on her homeworld, the Grand Chancellor stood before a towering crowd, his voice cold and loud. These traitors spread filth. One human dared challenge our order. Let the galaxy watch as we erase them all. An elite fleet of hunter cruisers was launched. 10,000 troops, plasma cannons, shock drones. Their target? Outpost 14K. Noah knew it was coming. He worked day and night, building new shields, installing ground disruptors, and training the volunteers who arrived every hour. He had no army experience, but he had Earth blood, and that meant improvisation. He trained an insectoid medic to operate turrets. He taught a mute hybrid girl how to throw stun traps. He even welded an old mining claw into a battle mech, piloted by a one-eyed engineer who refused to leave. Shirani helped too. She stood before the new arrivals every morning, telling them her story. Not in anger, but in truth. I was broken, she said. I was told my children should not exist. But then a human opened his door. Not because I was special, but because I was alive. Her words didn't sound like speeches. They sounded like hope. 3 days before the fleet was expected to arrive, a message came through a private channel. It was from a council judge, an old figure who once sentenced Jirani to exile. She almost didn't answer, but Noah insisted. The judge's hologram flickered to life. You have made a mess, Jirani. She didn't blink. You made it first. The judge looked tired. I came not to threaten, but to offer a deal. Jirani narrowed her eyes. You surrender yourself and the children. The human is spared. The outpost stands, quietly, forgotten. No war. Noah stood up beside her. And if she doesn't? The judge's voice dropped low. Then this becomes a symbol for others, and we cannot allow that. The hybrid flame must not spread. Jirani stared at the judge for a long time. Then softly she said, It's already too late, and ended the call. The night before battle, the camp was silent. Jirani sat beside Noah on the roof, under a sky full of stars. The babies slept. In the room below, watched by a dozen volunteer caretakers who had come just to keep them safe. She turned to Noah. You never asked me how they were born, he shrugged. Didn't matter. She smiled faintly. It was never about rebellion. I didn't fall in love with a human to make a point. I did it because he was kind, because he listened, because when I was falling apart, he didn't walk away. Noah said nothing. She looked up at the stars. I don't know what happens tomorrow, but I know this. If I die, and they live, then I won. Noah looked at her. We're not dying. Hope is a risk, she whispered. Noah placed a hand on hers. Then we take it together. At dawn, the fleet arrived, 12 destroyers, armored transports, thousands of troops. Inside the command ship, a general barked orders. Deploy, show no mercy, capture the hybrids, kill all who resist. But down on the ground, something unexpected waited. Not a broken outpost, not a desperate mother, but a united force of species who had never stood together before. And at their front, Jirani, her children safe behind her, and the human who had chosen to fight not because he had to, but because someone had to. The galaxy watched. Now it was time to act. The sky above the outpost burned orange as the enemy fleet filled the atmosphere. Giant cruisers hovered like metal dragons. Dropships screamed downward like falling knives. The ground trembled under their engines. But Jirani did not move. She stood on the ridge with the wind in her hair and her children safe behind the reinforced walls. Noah stood beside her, his rifle in hand. Around them stood creatures of every kind. Rejected, unwanted, mixed blood, broken, forgotten. This wasn't just her stand anymore. This was theirs. Targets locked. Hybrid identified. Advance and secure. The lead purifier general barked orders. From the enemy flagship, troops dropped in squads of 10 armed with plasma spears, pulse shields, and neural whips. They marched with perfect formation, ready to erase everything. But the outpost was ready, and this time, it didn't stand alone. The first wave came fast. Noah gave the signal, and a minefield of heat grenades lit up. Explosions through the front, squads into the air. Hidden turrets opened fire, cutting through their shields. From a hidden trench, a 3-armed alien fired pulse shots with deadly accuracy. A hybrid boy, barely 13, tossed an EMP net that fried a drop pod before it landed. Jirani stayed at the command post, giving directions in short, clear words. Cover the west flank. Reinforce the energy shield. No one moves alone. The refugees were not trained soldiers, but they fought like they had something to live for. Because they did. Because for once in their lives, they weren't running. Inside the enemy command ship, the general frowned. These aren't civilians. They've prepared for this. A junior officer spoke nervously. Sir, we underestimated the human, the general growled. Then fix that mistake. Another wave hit the outpost, twice as large. Explosions rocked the outer defenses. The shield began to flicker. One of the support towers took a direct hit. Smoke filled the air. Noah limped back from the front line, bleeding from his leg. "They're pressing hard," he said, gasping. Girani rushed to him. "We're holding, but not for long." He looked into her eyes. "Then we changed the game. They initiated Plan Ember, a secret fallback built by Noah and the engineer crew. While the outer defenses fought, a secret path opened below the ridge, leading to an underground fuel line hidden from the old mining days. The plan wasn't to outfight them. The plan was to outsmart them. Girani gathered the strongest volunteers and slipped into the underground tunnel. Noah stayed to buy time, limping back to the turret lines. The outpost was burning, but so was the fire inside her. They reached the fuel line after crawling through smoke and dust. Above, the battle raged. Girani looked at the control panel. Her fingers flew across the buttons. "This pipeline connects straight to the ridge above their landing zone. If we ignite it, we blow them off our planet," said a voice beside her. She turned. The voice belonged to a cyborg hybrid, part machine, part boy, who had barely spoken until now. Girani nodded. The team set the charges. Tension filled every second. Then Girani paused. She pulled out a tiny hollow chip from her pocket. It held a recording she had made that morning. Just in case she didn't make it, she pressed record. "To whoever finds this, my name is Girani. I was once called impure, a mistake, trash, but a human gave me something I'd never known, freedom, and now we give it to each other, not by blood, but by choice." She looked up at the others. "Let's end this." They triggered the blast. Above, the enemy troops were advancing, ready for their final push. Then the ridge erupted. A wall of blue fire burst from the ground, shooting into the sky. Entire landing zones were torn apart. Dropships flipped. Troops were thrown in every direction. The shockwave ripped through their command lines. Panic spread through their ranks. In space, the flagship's lights blinked wildly. Massive underground detonation. "Pull back, pull back!" But it was too late. The flame of rebellion had done more than destroy weapons. It had destroyed the myth of control. Hours later, the smoke cleared. The outpost still stood. Its towers blackened, its shields cracked, but its people alive. The enemy? Gone, some fled, others surrendered. The rest, left behind, confused how a band of misfits had shattered a system of fear. Noah sat on a broken wall, his leg wrapped in a bandage, one eye swollen shut. He smiled as he watched the children laugh in the dust, chasing drones like fireflies. Girani stood beside him, her robe singed, her hands calloused, but her heart light. "We won," she whispered. He chuckled. "Yeah. Weird, right?" She turned to him. "You never told me why you were really out here, alone, fixing a dead outpost." Noah didn't speak at first. Then softly he said, "Because I was looking for something worth fighting for." He looked at her. "Now I've found it." Weeks later, the tribunal on the neutral moon of Arava was packed. Leaders from 20 systems attended, and standing at the center was Girani, with her children, Noah, and 5 representatives from the Hybrid Refuge Council. She spoke calmly, boldly. "You don't have to like me. But you will see me. You will see us, because we're not going away. And if you still want to call us mistakes, then we will become the mistake that changed your galaxy." The hall was silent. Then, applause, a few at first, then many, and then a standing ovation. Epilogue Earth granted sanctuary to Girani and her children. She and Noah settled on a peaceful colony by a silver lake. The outpost was rebuilt, not as a bunker, but a beacon. A school was founded there, for hybrids, outcasts, and any child without a place. Noah taught engineering, Girani taught healing, and their children grew up knowing something their mother never had: home.